Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar this afternoon. So, my name is Ashley Sprague, and I'm the manager of seafood services with Perennia. And today we're going to talk about meeting regulatory requirements for new seafood processors. So, we hope to bring you a lot of practical information, and there will be time for discussion and questions. So, if you are just getting into fish processing, or if you are looking to expand your operations to include processing, we really hope that this will be some useful information for you. And so I'm just going to be giving the introduction today, and then we'll hear from Jenna Beaton from the Nova Scotia Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture and Cheryl Andrews from Perennia. And just to give you a little background for those who maybe are not familiar, Perennia is a Nova Scotia based Crown corporation. And we have a mission to really support the growth and economic development of Nova Scotia's food and beverage sectors. So we work in agriculture, seafood, and then we do work a lot with a whole range of beverages as well. And we want to help get great Nova Scotia products out to markets across the world. So, some of the services that we offer, and I'll go into our funding programs at the very end as well, because some of the funding programs we have may help you implement some of the items that we're going to talk about today. But our seafood team, we try to address industry-wide problems through a range of different projects. So we work on things such as, climate change related issues or byproduct utilization. And then we really want to try to help get products out to market. So we help with market diversification and product diversification. And then we also deliver funding programs, which again, I'll talk about a little later. All of our product development work is done out of our innovation center in Bible Hill. And so that's where if you have a product that you're thinking about and you want some help with recipe development or prototype development, that would be done in our innovation center. And we also help manage analysis or shelf life studies, any sort of packaging solutions, whatever challenges you're having, we try to help overcome that and get a good quality product out and market ready for you. We offer a range of quality and food safety services as well. So we do assessments, and that could be a needs assessment or gap assessment or pre-audit assessment. We help with the development and implementation of your food safety program. We do a lot of coaching and training, and a lot of that is specific to the seafood sector or specific to your company. We help with any sort of regulatory interpretation or assistance, food safety reviews, and nutritional fact tables as well. And then we have the majority of Perennia really works on the agriculture side of things. I think we have probably 80 employees on the ag side, and they do a lot of work directly with farmers in the field, looking at pest management, providing production advice. We do crop variety trials and also funding programs as well for the ag side of things. So that's kind of a high level overview of all the different services and the ways that Perennia supports the growth of the food sector in Nova Scotia. So you're going to hear shortly from Jenna Beaton, and Jenna is the manager of licensing and registration at the Nova Scotia Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture. And you'll also hear from Cheryl Andrews, and Cheryl is a quality food safety specialist with Perennia, and she works across a whole range of commodities, and she really helps companies develop, implement, maintain all aspects of their HACCP and food safety plans. And this is really to help you meet the regulatory and GFSI requirements in order to get your products, again, out to the markets. So just some real quick housekeeping. This session is being recorded, and we will have it available online after the webinar. So if any of your colleagues missed this, the information will all be available. All participants will have their audio and video turned off during the webinar. If you have a question, and we really are hoping that there'll be a good discussion and some questions here today, you can use the chat function at the bottom of your screen and type in your question, and we'll have someone monitoring that. And if you have questions, you can ask throughout the webinar or save it at the end. We have blocked off some time, whatever works best for you. And we'll, again, just kind of moderate those. And if there's anything urgent or really timely, we can address questions as they come up. Okay, so that's all for my little intro. I'm going to hand it over to Jenna to talk about the fish buyer processor licensing regulations
Thank
requirements.
you, Ashley. Hello, everyone. I'm Jenna Beaton, as mentioned, and I'm here just to talk a little bit about the province's requirements as it pertains to fish buyers and processors licensing. So, you may be wondering, what segment of the supply chain does the province regulate? So, DFO, the Federal Department of Fisheries and Oceans, traditionally regulates the fish harvesting side, and then the province regulates once that product gets onto shore. So, anybody who purchases fish from a commercial harvester in Nova Scotia is required to hold a fish buyer license. And then anybody who processes fish in Nova Scotia is required to have a fish processor license. And we define process as it's written there: package, label, grade, process, treat, preserve, and manufacture. So if you plan to do any of those activities for sale of product within the province or outside the province, you require the processor license. Now, the province has had a moratorium or a freeze on issuing new licenses in place since 2018. And this moratorium was recently lifted on August 1st, of this year. So we have been accepting applications for new licenses and adding species to existing licenses, except for lobster buyer licenses and snow crab licenses. So come January 2nd, 2026, we will start accepting applications for lobster buying and snow crab buying and processing. Now, you may be wondering how this relates to Perennia's presentation materials today. So we we don't have provincial inspectors who can really regulate the food safety side of things in the facilities that we regulate. So we really do lean on the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, and we require a CFIA issued Safe Food for Canadians license for fish buyer licenses for lobster if you're selling product outside of Nova Scotia. And then we also require the Safe Food for Canadians license for any fish processor license. Um, and Perennia is the group that would help you to obtain the Safe Food for Canadians license and walk you through that process. Um, on the slide here is just a little bit about exactly what we would require if you were to get a fish buyer license for lobster or a fish processor license. But I'll spare you the boring detail. It might be a little overboard at this stage, but if you want to take a picture of the slide or refer to it later, those are our specific requirements. And lastly, just our contact information is on the screen. So myself and Megan Greenwood, she's our licensing coordinator. She would be your first point of contact for anything related to our licensing process. We have an excellent website that we just kind of revamped for August 1st. You can see the web address there. There's a couple sections I'd refer you to: applying for licenses and also our policies and procedures. And I'll mention we have another resource group. We have Marine Industry Liaison Officers, also known as MILOs. So we have one in every region of the province, and they are really like the business development people. So if you would like to get in touch with any of them, they have information on licensing, as well as some funding programs that are available, not only for this process, but also funding in general. So if you click on that link, it'll take you to our map and our contact information for the Milos. So I'll be sticking around, and if there's any questions for the province, I'll be happy to answer them later.
Thanks, Jenna. So Perennia Seafood and Quality and Food Safety teams, we've come together to develop a resource document to help new seafood processors with navigating the regulatory requirements. So if you're thinking about starting a seafood processing business in Canada, this here is all going to apply to you. So this is our fact sheet or guidance document. It's titled CFIA Fish Processing Regulatory Overview. Carolyn's actually going to pop a link to this in the chat, so you can check it there and you'll have a direct link to access it. This document outlines why licensing matters. It provides information on setting up your facility. It highlights additional food safety documents that you will require, provides information on getting licensed, and provides links to resources and support. So at the end, there'll be some more links for resources there for you. So if you're thinking about starting a seafood processing business in Canada, you will need a license if you plan to process seafood. Processing seafood includes cutting, skinning, filleting, trimming, cooking, freezing, packaging, or storing seafood to sell. So before you apply, there's some things you need to consider and prepare for. Those things include, what type of seafood are you planning to prepare or process? Is it going to be fresh or frozen? Is it going to be fish? Are you going to process shellfish, or are you going to process sea plants? What processing steps are you planning? So are you planning on freezing it, drying it, salting it, smoking it, or cooking it? And you also need to consider where you're planning to process it. Where are you intending to sell it? So for example, are you planning to sell at retailers, wholesale, or for further processing? Or what locations are you planning to ship to? Are you going to export? You'll need to know all of this information to ensure that you apply and obtain the correct license, and in order to design your facility and processes properly and accordingly. Why licensing matters. So again, if you're starting a seafood processing business in Canada, you'll need to consider 2 levels of compliance. So there's provincial or territorial, and then there's federal. So provincial or territorial licensing, they handle the facility licensing, but you must also comply with federal regulations, which are outlined in the Canadian Food Inspection Agencies, or CFIA's Safe Food for Canadians regulations. We refer to this as the SFCR. So the CFIA is a federal body responsible for protecting public health and to ensure food in Canada is safe to eat. The Safe Food for Canadians regulations outlines the requirements to keep food safe and traceable during receiving, processing, and distribution. So by meeting and following these regulations and obtaining your CFIA license, you'll be able to then confidently grow your business and sell your products with peace of mind. So our first step, setting up your facility. So there's a number of things you're going to need and to consider before and during construction or renovation if you purchased a previously existing building. So the first thing you'll need is a facility plan. So this is going to look similar to the photo on the left of your screen here. You're going to need a drawing. This drawing is going to outline the space, the rooms, and materials and equipment that you plan to use. And the diagram is the first step in demonstrating your facility will be safe for food. So we recommend you have your drawing or facility plans reviewed by a food safety consultant prior to beginning construction to ensure that all of the food safety requirements have been considered and that they're going to be met. So for example, your traffic flows. So in the photo to the left there, you can see where we considered where employees, product, so your product raw or ready to eat, where those flow, where your chemicals are going to flow, and where your packaging, finished product, and waste is going to move throughout your facility. And we consider these because we need to avoid any potential cross-contamination. So if a food safety consultant can review your diagram prior to your construction, you then have the opportunity to make changes before it's finished to avoid renovations to a new space. Once your construction is completed, you will need an up-to-date drawing. So you'll have your potential drawing, and then you'll need an up-to-date one once your construction is finished on hand. This is going to be part of your food safety program, and it must also be accessible to your inspectors. So there's a decently sized list of requirements your facility must meet. So we've outlined these under the considerations in the guidance document. And these considerations include, but they're not limited to. So you must consider your utilities. So water is one of your utilities. Your water source must be potable. So whether it's supplied to you by the municipality, if it's from a private well, or even if it's seawater. So the water must be tested for E. coli and coliforms by an accredited lab. So you need to send those water samples out, and they need to be tested at a set frequency to prove the potability of your water. And your ice must also be made from this potable water, which also must be tested at a set frequency. Other utilities include air, gas, and steam systems. And you just need to make sure that these are also designed to eliminate any food safety risks. Walls, floors, and ceilings, windows, and doors. So these all must be constructed from cleanable, impervious, and non-absorbent materials. So we don't want to use exposed brick. We don't want to paint the surfaces because it could flake off, and we don't want to use wood. These must be sealed at any joint. So all your walls, floors, ceilings, wherever they join, you need to make sure they're sealed or they're coved. It's not recommended that you have windows in processing or storage areas, but if you really feel the need that you'd like a window in there, or these windows are pre-existing from a previous building, these windows must be shatterproofed. So in addition to being shatterproof, they need to be screened and sealed to the outdoors. Your doors must also be properly sealed and kept closed when they're not actively in use. So we just want to make sure there's no potential pests that can get in through those openings. Ducting, conduit, and piping. So these must be designed to prevent contamination. So for example, foam, piping, insulation must be covered with plastic or something similar. And these pipes must not have holes or gaps around them where they enter through walls. So those need to be sealed up. Piping carrying wastewater or sanitary waste should not be located directly over your processing areas or your storage areas. This may come into play if you do have an upper level design to your facility, and all lines must be labeled. So your water lines must be labeled, and if you have chemical lines installed, those need to be labeled as well. Ventilation systems must be adequate to remove any dust, condensation, and the amount of steam generated by your process. So if you have a cooking process that involves steam, ensure your ventilation system's adequate to remove all that excess steam from the areas. Ensure the exterior vents leading to these ventilation systems are screened, or that they have louvers that close when the unit's not in operation. So we need to make sure they're screened or that they close to prevent any pest entry. Drainage in your facility. So we need to make sure there's adequate drainage. This is to prevent any pooling water. Your drain covers must also be removable so that you can clean the drains. And your facility drains must be separate from sewage lines, so they can't be cross-connected. Also keep in mind that any cooling units from your freezers or your coolers will need to be directed to drains and not drained directly on the floor. So often during those defrost cycles, they will discharge water as well. Your storage areas, so you need to have room for storage above and beyond your dry storage and your coolers and your freezer storage. You'll also need to consider a separate lockable storage area for any chemicals. So your chemicals and cleaning supplies need to be kept separate. And you'll also need a separate area again for any maintenance chemicals. If your building is designed with catwalks or stairs, these cannot have open grates directly above food, exposed food product, food contact surfaces, equipment surfaces, packaging, etc. And they also must be easily cleanable. Sinks, so you're going to need a hands-free hand washing sink at the entrance to your packaging and processing areas. So these sinks must be connected directly to drain, and hand washing sinks must be separate from utility sinks used for cleaning equipment, if they're used for cleaning utensils, or if you're using a sink for processing. Hand washing sinks must be separate from these sinks that have other uses. Welfare areas. So these are all the areas outside your storage and your processing areas. So your washrooms, your offices, those kind of spaces. Your washrooms cannot enter directly into your production or processing or storage areas. You'll also need an area for your employees to store their own personal belongings and somewhere for them to have lunch, like a lunchroom or something like that, just to keep these from being within or entering into the processing and storage areas. Lighting. So lighting is important. Your lighting must be shatterproof, and it also must be adequate in brightness for the activities being conducted. So we don't want the lighting to alter what a color should look like. So the required lux readings for the lighting requirements are actually outlined in our guidance documents. You can check those out for the activities that you're planning on conducting within your facility or space. Incompatible activities, we also need to consider these. They must be physically separated to prevent cross-contamination or cross-contact with allergens. And what I mean by incompatible activities, so if you're processing or planning on processing raw product and ready-to-eat product, or allergens, so you have a shellfish allergen and a fish allergen in the same building, you'll need to separate these physically, and they are considered incompatible activities. So within your process, your plant diagram there, just make sure that those traffic flows add up and you're not going to be potentially cross-contaminating anything. Certain activities may also be separated by sanitation, but this is determined by risk. So you can't separate all activities by simply cleaning in between them. All of these things are required to prevent the contamination to your product. Construction materials. So what are we going to build this area, space, facility out of? So the construction materials need to be suitable for the intended use. They need to be appropriate for the activity being conducted. They must be approved for use in a food establishment. So you can get approvals for these that state or spec sheets, technical data sheets, letters of guaranteed. You can get those that state that the materials you've chosen to use are approved for use in a food establishment. We don't recommend the use of paint or wood, or you can't use paint or wood in a processing area because those are absorbent and the paint tends to flake after a little while, so it becomes a foreign material risk to your product. Construction materials and equipment need to be made of durable materials. So in addition to being approved, these materials need to be durable because they're going to need to withstand repeated cleaning and sanitizing. Things like epoxy, paint, lighting, wall and floor coverings, they all must be approved for use in a food establishment. Ensure your floors slope to the drain to avoid any pooling water. It's also recommended to use light colored finish on your floors and walls so that the inspector can easily determine cleanliness. We talked about floors, ceilings, walls, and junctions already, and we talked a bit about windows as well. Your equipment, so all equipment needs to be designed to prevent contamination of the food, and it must be easily accessible for cleaning and maintenance. So we need to be able to get in there and behind it to clean and maintain it. Your equipment materials must also be non-porous. They need to be smooth, they need to be free from cracks, flaking, rust, bad welds, etc. So we want these to be in good condition so that they are cleanable. And if they have any gauges, PLC screens, emergency stops, that kind of thing, make sure that these are not easily breakable. We don't want those to become a source of foreign material in your finished product. Materials like wood or galvanized metal or lead, painted surfaces, these are not acceptable for food processing equipment. Keep the maintenance manuals when you get them for your equipment and your specifications on file. And keep in mind, equipment used in raw areas cannot be used in ready to eat areas. So that's one of those circumstances where the sanitation is not an adequate separation of these two activities in raw and ready to eat areas. The equipment must be dedicated to each of those areas. They cannot be shared. Utensils. So also these must not be wood and they must be identifiable as per their use. They need to be easily distinguishable between uses. For example, you want to know what utensils you can use on your food contact surfaces and your non-food contact surfaces, your drains and your washrooms. We don't want these cleaning utensils or any utensils getting mixed up between these uses, so they need to be properly identifiable. We can do this by labeling them, or you might choose to dedicate a certain color of utensils for different uses. Utensils are another thing that can't be shared between raw and ready to eat areas. So that means sanitation can also not separate these. They need to be dedicated to either a raw or a ready-to-eat area. And when you're considering utensils, wired brushes are not acceptable for use. Those can become a foreign material hazard, and the wood, they can't be wood as well. The food safety documents you will need to include in your preventive control plan or your PCP to meet the Safe Food for Canadians requirements. This is going to include written programs. So you're going to have to write a program that includes sanitation, pest control, and non-food agents. There's another section we call conveyances and equipment, conditions respecting establishments, unloading, loading, and storing, competency, hygiene, investigation, notification, complaints, and recall, and a preventive control plan. So these are all parts of your preventive control plan or your preventive control program to meet the requirements of CFIA Safe Food for Canadians requirements. So let's use the sanitation program as an example of a written program, because you're probably kind of wondering, what do I mean when I say we need a written program for each one of these preventive control sections? So for example, the sanitation, so you're going to need a step-by-step written procedures that include cleaning instructions. We refer to them as sanitation standard operating procedures, or SSOPs. You'll also need a master cleaning schedule for each area and each piece of equipment. So that master cleaning schedule is going to include what the equipment is, how often it needs to be cleaned. It'll include a list of chemicals that you use and their concentrations, how the program or cleaning is going to go, be verified, or it's going to be checked by somebody. So who's responsible for the cleaning and who's responsible for the checking. You must also have training completed, and the training must be documented for everyone responsible for cleaning in your facility. And records must be on file showing what was cleaned, when it was cleaned, who cleaned it, and who verified it once the cleaning has been completed. You'll also need to have some sort of deviation or corrective action procedure in place in the case something doesn't go as planned or as required. Each written program needs to be detailed enough to outline the process that someone picking up the written program can perform the task. And these will need to be developed for all required preventive controls. So as for a brief description of the other written programs you'll need, pest control, so that's just exactly what it is, a pest control program, how you are controlling pests from getting into your facility, and what you're going to do if they do get into your facility. You'll need to include information on what an employee is to do if they see a pest within your facility, and be sure to bring awareness to the pesticides in the bait stations on the exterior of your facility. So we want to make sure everyone's aware of those. Non-food agents. So this is your chemical control program. So how do we control the chemicals in our facility? How do we store them? How do we provide training on chemical handling to our employees? You'll need chemical approvals. So similar to other materials coming into your facility, those will need to be approved for use in a food manufacturing facility. You'll need the safety data sheets on hand and any product specification sheets on file or whatnot that show mixing instructions, safe handling instructions, that kind of thing. Non-food agents also includes your maintenance chemicals, such as maintenance lubricants and all your cleaning chemicals. Oops. Conveyances and equipment. So this includes written procedures and records around your maintenance and calibration programs. Equipment maintenance. So you'll need a preventative maintenance schedule to prevent things from happening within your facility. So if you put them on a regular schedule for maintenance, things go more smoothly. You'll also need to have checks to ensure that your equipment you purchased is designed hygienically and the function. So you'll need to have checks that your equipment is functioning as it's intended. Your calibration program will include procedures for ensuring accuracy of your measuring devices. or any monitoring equipment. So if, for example, your scales and your thermometers, those will need to be required, those are required to be calibrated regularly, and you'll have to have a written program outlining how they're calibrated or checked for accuracy and the records that you can show to prove that all the necessary calibrations were actually completed. The conditions respecting establishments section, this includes written programs on how to maintain your facility inside and out. So make sure you consider both the inside and the out when you're developing these programs, and how you ensure your utilities meet the requirements. So this section also includes how you manage the allergens within your facility. So keep allergens separate. If you do have different species that have different allergens, or you're including other ingredients in your process, make sure that we keep these separate, and that we perform label checks on the products to protect people with food allergies. So we want to make sure the label on the product is what is actually in the package, and we are able to notify those with food allergies. Include standard operating procedures for allergen control. This includes any allergen risk assessments you may need to perform. The allergen program also includes cleaning and validation for any shared equipment, sample labels with allergen declarations, and again, any training records. The unloading, loading, and storing program, this includes written procedures and records around receiving, storage, and shipping practices. So these ensure all of your inputs, all of your incoming materials, and finished products are safely handled and stored under appropriate conditions. It also includes how you handle non-conforming items, so things that don't meet requirements, or how you handle things that need to be put on hold for one reason or another. It also includes ensuring everything you purchase is from an approved supplier, and what requirements your suppliers and materials must meet for your program. The competency section outlines your training program. So outline any required food safety training for your employees, and keep records of who completed the training. So ensure your staff know how to work safely to reduce any food safety risks. The hygiene program includes your written program and records around employee hygiene and good manufacturing practices. So what are the employees doing to ensure food safety? What are their responsibilities? Investigation, notification, complaints, and recall. So this is your written program around how you deal with consumer or customer complaints, how you can trace all of your incoming ingredients, raw materials, and primary or food contact packaging, right through processing and shipping to your finished product. And it also needs to include what procedures you have in place to follow in the case you do end up in a recall situation. Once you have all of your preventive controls or prerequisite programs in place, then you can develop and implement a preventive control plan. So we also refer to this as the HACCP plan. And this part identifies and assesses all potential risks to product safety throughout your process. So it'll outline your process right from receiving the raw materials or incoming materials through processing and to shipping your finished product. It also outlines the control measures that you will have in place, or that you do have in place, for each potential risk identified at each step in your process. And most or all of your control measures will be in place through your preventive controls or prerequisite programs, depending on your operation. A preventive control plan is the entire system used to control identified hazards and mitigate the food safety risks surrounding your product. So it may seem a little overwhelming or daunting at first when you hear about all of these documents that you need for your food safety program to meet the requirements of CFIA Safe Food for Canadians. But we have some resources that can help. So under our food safety resources, we have a quality and food safety guide for seafood processors. So this booklet was developed to support access to new markets by enhancing quality and food safety knowledge and skills of seafood processors in Nova Scotia. So you'll find this on our website. Carolyn, if you could pop the link for this one in there too, that'd be great. So this goes through a lot of the requirements, and it will show you how to meet those requirements. So in addition to our quality and food safety guide for seafood processors, we also have a general guide, Safe Food for Canadians General Guide. So this one was developed in support of agriculture, seafood, and food and beverage businesses in Nova Scotia, specifically to meet the requirements of the Safe Food for Canadians regulations. So it's going to outline all of the requirements for that preventive control plan that you need to put in place, all of the prerequisites, all of the HACCP requirements, and it will walk you through them. So it'll give you some specific guidance on how to meet each step in your process of developing and implementing your program. So when we're working through developing and implementing our preventive control plan, I just want everyone to keep this 3-step rule in mind. So when you're developing it, the written portion, so your written programs are going to say what you do. So you're going to describe what you do in these written programs. In actuality, out on the floor, you will do what you say. So you're taking your written program and you're acting it out on the floor. So these are the programs or procedures your employees will be following when they're out doing their day-to-day tasks. And through the record keeping, you'll be able to prove it. So we're going to say what we do with our written program, and then we're going to do what we say by following our written program. And then the records that we keep are going to prove that we're doing our due diligence through implementing and maintaining our food safety program. So getting licensed. So once your space and documents are ready, you can then apply for a seafood processor license. So things you'll need to include during this process are your business plan, your facility drawings and photos, a food safety plan, which is going to be your prerequisite program, or your preventive control program is going to be your food safety plan that you need to submit, which includes your preventive controls and your preventive control plan. Proof of employee training, you're going to need to submit your water testing results, and you'll also need to create a My CFIA account so you can apply for your federal Safe Food for Canadians license. Once you've received your license, you'll need to appoint a trained and qualified food safety team leader. You'll need to train any new staff and keep the records of that training. You'll need to keep your written program up to date, so we don't just write it in the beginning and forget about it. Things are constantly changing and growing with your company, so you will need to keep this written program up to date, and you'll need to fix any issues within a timely manner. You'll need to be ready for your inspectors, and remember to renew your license as required and report any operational changes to your regulatory agencies or authorities in the case it would change your licensing. To go along with our CFIA fish processing regulatory overview guidance document, we also have the seafood processor licensing complete documentation checklist. So this is going to keep you aligned with our guidance document. It's a checklist of all the required documentation. It will help ensure your program's actively being implemented, that you're keeping documentation up to date and reviewing it and revising it regularly. So this is a good little checklist to use in combination with the reference or the guidance document, just to check everything off to make sure you covered all your bases. So keep in mind all of your written programs, your associated documents, and program records need to be easily accessible for your CFIA inspectors when they come in. So make sure they're all filed away and you know exactly where everything is when they come in. We do have some resource links here for the guidance document. So there's some resources from NSDFA, resources from CFIA, and there's those Perennia resource links that I also mentioned earlier for assistance. And then I'm gonna throw it back to you, Carolyn. Thank you.
Yeah, we got a few questions. I'm going to start with 2 questions for Jenna. So this is one we got. I have a peddler's license, which I was able to obtain in 2018. Is that still valid? Do you know?
So is the peddler's license something that's in Newfoundland? Because I'm not familiar with a peddler's license. So yeah, we regulate fish buyer and fish processor licenses, so I'm not 100% sure on the peddler's license situation.
Okay, then I will ask that person who asked that question if they're able to send us an email at seafood@perennia.ca and we will find that answer. Here's another question for you, Jenna. What is the difference between federal registration at CFIA and provincial licensing?
Yeah, so the province regulates fish processing within the province, obviously. So regulate the preparing food for trade. So preparing food for export out of the province to the rest of Canada or export out of the country. They don't typically regulate, for sales within the province. So where CFIA are the food safety experts, and there is some overlap with what some processors might be doing. They may want to process for sale just within the province, but they also want to process for sale outside the province. Having two duplicate or two requirements, one CFIA, one the province relies on CFIA for all things fish processing. So it really boils down to, what the intended end use of the product is. Again, CFIA regulates the preparing food for export out of the province, whereas the provincial government regulates processing for sale within the province. Hopefully that explains it.
Perfect, thank you so much. And here's some questions for Cheryl. What are the steps required to convert an existing facility into a certified food processing facility? Is it similar to what you mentioned, or how do you revamp an existing building?
Yeah, so for the existing buildings, if it's a new acquire or you're getting a new license, so they're going to treat those as a new facility. So you'll need to go through the facility and see what needs to be done or renovated or whatnot, or what already meets these existing requirements. So that would be the first step, just kind of like a building assessment, I would say, would be your first step.
What are the minimum facility layout requirements for seafood processing? Are there minimum requirements?
Minimum requirements as in what's required, like, or size. I might have interpreted it wrong.
I'm not sure. Are there the size requirements? Yes.
Size requirements, no. So as long as you can safely complete all of the activities that you're hoping to do within your facility, as long as you meet all of the requirements and the flows are working in your favor, then there is no size requirements. But you may find you might need a little more space depending on how your operations and what operations are occurring and how they're flowing.
Here's a question. What are the proper cold chain requirements for seafood products? Not sure if that is something you are able to answer now, or is that something you want to take offline? Cheryl?
So depending on the species or the product, they would need to be received at certain temperatures or in certain conditions, for example, live. And then the processing needs to make sure that the temperatures are within a range so that you're not introducing any hazards to your product. So if it's a cooked product, you may have to process it and package it right away to get it into that blast freezer kind of thing. So we take into consideration what products you're looking at, what the incoming materials is, and what the process is to determine those.
Perfect. I would recommend if you have if you have a question about your specific product, to send us an email at seafood@perennia.ca, because our specialists can help you and they can give you free advice. Like, we're not going to charge you for answering that email. So I would highly recommend seafood@perennia.ca. How must frozen products be labeled and dated? For example, if I process fish, what date of expiration should I use? That's a really good question. And I think we can help. Cheryl, do you have an answer, or do you want me to take it?
Well, I'm just looking for the question to make sure I got all of I don't see it here though, Carolyn.
How must frozen products be labeled and dated? For example, if I process fish, what date of expiration I should use? It's in the chat.
Okay. So for labeling requirements, I would consult our regulatory team. They can tell you exactly what needs to go on that label. For expiration date, that usually relies on having a shelf life study completed for your specific product. Depending on the product, sometimes we can generalize what product has what frozen shelf life kind of thing. So again, it's product and process specific, but if you're looking for guidance specifically on certain label contents and things like that, I would contact our regulatory.
Absolutely. Yeah, we do shelf life evaluations here at Perennia. You don't have to go through Perennia, but we do some. And I think you may be able to get some funding for helping to pay for those things. Ashley might be able to talk about it in a little bit as well. Here's a really good question, and I know Cheryl for sure has an answer, because we've done a webinar on this before, which I will add in the link, so you can watch a whole other hour on this as well. How should you prepare for a CFIA or third-party audit?
So the best way to prepare is to make sure you're familiar with the requirements that you're trying to meet for your upcoming inspection or audit. So once you're familiar with the requirements, what the expectations are, then you need to go to your current food safety program and compare what you have in place to what those requirements are. And then you need to thoroughly go through everything, identify any gaps, and then you will need to fix those gaps. So put things in place that you don't already have or whatnot. And then once your gap assessment is completed and your corrections have been made, then you should be ready for your inspection.
Anybody else have any other questions? Please go ahead. I'm just about to put that link in in the chat to that webinar. It's called Third-Party Audits, What to Expect. And two of our food safety specialists, Elaine and Shelley, go through really what to expect before, during, and after a third-party audit, and kind of how you can prepare.
I can just jump into our funding programs as well. Thank you, Jenna and Cheryl. That was a lot of information. And again, please follow up by email if you have any other specific questions, and we'll reach out to you one-on-one. So just a couple other ways that Perennia can support you as you are navigating all of this. And it is a lot of information. And if you're just starting in fish processing, it can seem overwhelming, but we can kind of help you providing advice along the way. So we do have free technical advice, as Carolyn mentioned. So if you are developing your facility plan and you would like another set of eyes to look at that, we can set up a time to have a virtual meeting to walk you through it, to kind of look at what have you missed, what have you captured, or you want to make sure your separation is okay between ready to eat, raw products, things like that. If you have questions specific to your company about your packaging, your labeling, preparing for a CFIA audit, anything like that, our team of either food scientists or quality food safety specialists are available to have a chat. So reach out anytime to that seafood@perennia.ca, and someone will get back to you, and we can talk through your specific issue. And even if you're preparing for an audit, or you went through an audit and there's some non-conformances, you need to understand the root cause analysis or how to respond to CFIA following an audit, we're here to support you in any of those avenues. So please reach out for some free technical advice. And then we have some funding programs as well. Oh, first of all, we have training. So this is something that our quality food safety team, they do a fantastic job. If you've ever had an opportunity to be trained by Shelley or Cheryl or anyone on the team. So there's general training that's available online. And a lot of it is seafood specific. So you can look at this website and take a look at our upcoming courses and sign up. Also, if you need specific to your company training, you want to train your staff to the program that you've just developed, or your management team needs training, we can help with that as well. And we do have funding to cover parts of this. So definitely look into our training options. They're available year round. And it usually is really good opportunity to learn and really dig into those questions that you have. And for funding, there's two programs that are currently open. One is our Seafood Accelerator program, and that's for all Nova Scotia-based seafood companies. And we can help with either product development. So if you're looking for a shelf life study, some analysis you need done, packaging, recipe development, refining that recipe, we can help anything under the product development umbrella, or quality food safety. So if you need more than just a chat and free technical advice, and you need someone to come to your facility to do the gap assessment, the needs assessment, to prepare you for that audit. Like, we can walk through everything to make sure that you're really in good shape and you've closed anything that's of concern, and that you'll hopefully succeed in your audits. We can do that as well, and there's funding to cover that. Finally, we have our local supplier food safety support pilot program. And this is a new program for us, but really it helps getting companies ready to meet the food safety requirements for retail, for food service, or if you need to update your food safety program to enter any sort of new market. This is a great program. So it can cover food safety product program development, training, and then it also has money for facility upgrades. So if you have a facility that you have taken over and you're planning to do processing, this is a great fund for you, because as long as you need something done in order to pass an audit. So maybe you need a new drain installed, or you need to go from wooden doors to a different type of material, that sort of thing. If there's some equipment that you need that will help you achieve the certification and pass the audit, then there is actually funding available. So it's all cost shared, but it's a great program, and it's open until 2027. So take a look at both of those. Reach out again to that seafood@perennia.ca if you have any questions. Which program to go to will lead you to whichever one provides the best assistance rates and the most funds to help you accomplish whatever you need. So just to wrap up, our team is here to help you, and we're really excited to see some new entrants in the processing area. And this only means that we can get more fantastic products from Nova Scotia out to the world. So we want to help do that. And just want to thank the team here today, and thank all of you for taking the time. We'll let you know, I think, Carolyn, when it's up online, if you want to take another look or share it. And if you have more specific questions we didn't get into, please send us an email following this session, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
Yeah, that email is seafood@perennia.ca. Whatever your question, we're going to find the right person to answer it. So thank you, everybody. Like I said, it'll be up on our YouTube, and I'll send every registrant an email when that happens. I will also send some of these links mentioned here, so you'll have them in your email. All of the fact sheets and YouTube videos and all those that I sent, those are all free. And you don't have to sign up or anything. You can sign up for an account and you'll get access to lots and lots of resources, but they're all free for you. Feel free to share them around, and we're always adding more resources. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, gentlemen.
And I'll just add, if there's a gap in our resources and there's something that you really think that you need or would be helpful to have a checklist or a laminated sheet that walks you through something, we can always develop more resources as well. So if there's something that you're looking for that you don't see, we would love to hear from you. And that really helps guide us so that we're filling any needs for industry. Yeah. So again, thanks everyone for your time today. Enjoy the rest of your day. And we look forward to working with you in the future.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.